really delighted to be here. And I hope I don't break down. Because why I'm even here tonight and writing has a lot to do with my bride. And I lost her about 14 months ago. Yeah, about 14 months ago. And we started writing because we want to put some memoirs together. So we jot these little pieces of clip out and a little something in the paper that we thought would be helpful. And we just throw it in the suitcase. She contracted Alzheimer's. We started in 1996 with this, thinking, you know, a couple of years down the line, we were getting ready to retire. And unfortunately, I never get back to it. And as a matter of fact, I forgot all about that suitcase. And I knew I had to get out of the house after Ellen passed away. So I went to a workshop with an old friend of mine up in Worcester. And the talk was on the 50th anniversary of Michael Harrington. And I was very active in politics. And he was very, very instrumental in my political life, not to mention other parts that I'm going to talk about. But I'm walking down my street, and I bump into Finbar Kaur, who's one of the members of the group. Gee, I'm sorry to hear what's going on, and how you're doing, you're hanging in. Then I mentioned to him, just in passing, that I had this stack of notes, and I always wanted to put it together. Why don't you come to my workshop? Geez, I got a great bunch of people that they'd love to give you some help and move you along. So I'm brand new, like Ingrid, I'm only here a year. But I have to tell you, this group has been incredibly supportive, incredibly helpful. So let me just tell you what I'm going to write about. Because when I got there, I wasn't sure, and I knew I had kind of a vague idea of where I wanted to go. But like Sebi, I call him Sebi, I related immediately to his writings because I also was brought up in the project. Although at that time it was white Anglo-Saxon Irish Catholic in Charlestown, Massachusetts. Very provincial Irish American Catholic town. And ironically, with similar situations, I wanted to, I thought maybe starting with a title would be good. So I decided on the other side of Charlestown. Now, if anybody has seen The Town, Mystic River, or read the book, The Black Mass, I'm in it. Now, when I say I'm in it, I mean, I'm not one of the major characters. I grew up with a lot of these guys. Whitey Bulgers, the Winter Hill Gang, the Irish Mafia from Charlestown, the McLaughlins, plenty among them, the Stevie and Eddie Hughes from Charlestown, the guys from Somerville, and they used to work the docks, so they were into all kinds of stuff. We affectionately call it the Green Square Mile because of its Irish history and background. And whenever I was introduced, people would say, Charlestown, you'd step back and give you the double look and check you out. I said, oh, wait a minute, you know, not all the people from Charlestown are bad, you know. Well, I can't speak for the girls, so maybe some women would be tough too. I can only speak for some of the guys, and I'm one of them. You do 10 to 20 in state's prison. You do 10 to 20 in the military, depending upon the judge. You do 10 to 20 in the monastery, which I did. You do 10 to 20 in recovery, which I did not. I did military service as well. So for me, I have a line, a tagline on my website. Magical, mystical, transcendental, trying to make sense of it all. My heroes were not the bank robbers, the hijackers, or the loan sharks. My heroes are those that escaped the environment, and I was one of them. And I just want to give you a little bit of a taste of my growing up, and a little incident to kind of whet the appetite, because there won't be a lot of gangster stuff in there, although there'll be some. I even did a breaking and entering that I shared with the group a couple of weeks ago. But this one here is, Frankie, Shaky, and I were inseparable during our teen years. We were like the legendary Three Musketeers. We were really tight, looking out for one another, and inseparable. If we weren't playing tricks on each other, we would conspire to get someone else. This usually was in the form of getting someone to make an ass of themselves. Once you survived the deception, you became what we affectionately called a bullshit sniffer. More importantly, you learned how to deal with self-embarrassment. This helped you to become thick-skinned as well as a risk-taker. Besides, you learned to laugh at yourself. Great lessons. You could never put on airs with these guys. They'd bring you right back to earth and reality. Don't give me that bullshit. I can still hear Frankie bark. I remember when you lived in the projects and you never popped a piss in a window to throw it out. Well, Frankie had this easygoing, devil-may-care attitude. He was scared to death of girls. That bravado, boasting, and fast-talking person that was always present would dissolve at any close proximity to one of the opposite sex. He'd want to leave as soon as he could if Shaky or I engaged in conversation with any of the girls in the corner. We always had a get-even strategy with Frankie, and it centered around his inability to function around them with his usual pomposity. But we were also sensitive to his problem, especially if one of the guys from another gang took advantage of the situation. We used to go to dances every Friday night at the Knights of Columbus, Bucket Hill Council 62, and Cotton Hall at Sullivan Square on Friday and Saturday night. It was the most dreaded time for Frankie, who preferred 1,000 other places to be, but he wanted to be with the guys. You would never or ever see him on a dance floor. He shared with us in one of his weaker moments his inability to get up the courage to ask a young lady for a twirl. We coached him on how to handle it, especially if you get turned down over the pain. We even got our sisters to help with him approaching girls as well as teach basic dance steps and conversation. After months of sweet talk and practice, we got results. On the floor he went with confidence. We knew how difficult it was for him, but Shaky and I felt like a new father watching his baby son take his first steps. Boy, were we proud. We were on the sidelines gloating over the great job we had done at the dance hall when a real wise guy kept bumping into him and making him stumble and look awkward. A few moments later, the guy did it again, and it became too much for Frankie, and you could see the frustration. So he just left the dance floor and ambled over to us, a little shaken, but okay. Having watched what went on, I was livid. Knowing how difficult it was for Frankie to get out on the floor, I blurted, "Did you see that guy? He was trying to embarrass you. He was trying to be a real smartass." I was really steamed up. If that was me, I would have punched him in the mouth, I yapped. He wanted to make you look like an asshole. We went to another part of the dance hall and caught the tail end of the Marciano-Lewis heavyweight title fight that was broadcast that night and cooled down. It was sad to see Joe Louis getting hit hard and often by Marciano and crumbling to the floor, ending his career. We all felt bad and knew that it was over for him. Louis was around as long as we could remember and was part of our growing up. Marciano was the great white hope. We didn't really understand the racial overtones of that time until later in our lives. The next morning, Frankie and I met for breakfast and a few rounds of little 8-ball at Myers' local pool parlor. After a few racks and dropping $1 or $2, we headed out to our gang hangout to meet with the rest of the guys. Next thing I know, walking down the street, someone's shouting my name. "Hey, Eddie! Hey, Eddie!" As he gets closer, I see he has a friend with him, and I say, "Ooh, I know I'm in trouble." When we get face to face, he blurts out, "One of the boys in my gang tells me you shot your mouth off last night and told him you wanted to punch me out." Well, here I am. I looked at Frankie and I said, "That isn't exactly the way I said it, was it, Frankie?" With the heartbeat picking up and the pace and the hands sweating and curling into a fist, I said, Me and Shaky saw what you were doing to Frankie and we didn't like it. I told Frankie that if it was me, I would have punched you in the mouth. Well, what are you waiting for? He yelled. With that, I threw him a left hook on the chin. Down he went, and the fight was on. It seemed like we went at it for an hour, with fists flailing, most of them wild, but my training took over from training at the Boys Club. Bobbing, weaving, jabbing, some landing pretty solid. He had trouble with me because I was a southpaw and showed good footwork. He wouldn't keep up as the siren of the police car came screeching around the corner. We thought they were coming after us, so we hopped over the fence and ran as fast as we could up a couple of back alleys and down to the sanctuary of the corner amidst old friends, looking cool as though nothing had happened. After a few days of thinking about what I got myself into, it sank in and I discovered what a great lesson it was not to shoot my mouth off like that again. I might have to back it up. The best part was that I never had another fight in the town again. The guy that I fought had such a tough reputation in the town that it must have worn off on me, because I was treated with the greatest respect after that, especially when it came to the fist. Later on, some of the guys said it was the best fight they ever saw, and I really held my own, and they were proud of me. I thought, you can't ask for more than that.